You know, I don't usually make predictions. I've said it many times over the years. I can't tell you what the stock market is going to do tomorrow or next week or next month. Nobody can. But I can tell you this, and I'm very confident about this. We're heading into a period that's going to separate the prepared from the unprepared, the disciplined from the reckless, the survivors from the casualties. 2026 is going to be a pivotal year, and I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this to prepare you, because if you do the right things now before we get there, you're going to be fine, more than fine. You might even thrive. But if you ignore the warning signs, if you keep doing what you've been doing, hoping everything will just work out, you're going to get hurt, really hurt. Now, I'm 94 years old. I've been through 14 recessions. 14. I've seen booms and busts. I've seen euphoria and panic. I've seen people make fortunes and lose everything. And I've learned something very important. The people who survive, who thrive, who come out stronger, they're not lucky. They're prepared. They see what's coming, and they act before it arrives. So today, I want to tell you exactly what you need to do right now, not next month, not next year. Now. Before 2026, because the window for easy preparation is closing, and if you wait too long, it's going to be too late. Let me start by telling you what I'm seeing. What's keeping me up at night? Well, I don't actually lose sleep. I sleep fine. But if I were younger, if I had less capital, less security, this would worry me. A lot. First, valuations are stretched. The stock market, it's expensive. Very expensive. Not everywhere, but in a lot of places. People are paying prices for businesses that only make sense if everything goes perfectly for the next 10 years. And things never go perfectly. They just don't. There's always something. A recession, a crisis, a pandemic, a war. Something always happens. Second, debt levels are astronomical. Consumer debt, corporate debt, government debt. It's everywhere. And debt is dangerous. When times are good, debt feels like free money. People borrow to buy houses they can't afford, cars they don't need, vacations they shouldn't take. Companies borrow to buy back stock, to make acquisitions, to pay dividends. Governments borrow to fund programs they can't pay for, and it all feels fine until it doesn't.
Because here's what happens with debt. When the economy slows down, when revenues fall, when people lose jobs, suddenly all that debt becomes a crushing weight. People can't make their payments. They default. They declare bankruptcy. Companies that were profitable become insolvent overnight. And the whole system, it gets fragile. Very fragile. Third, interest rates. For years, interest rates were basically zero. Free money. Anyone could borrow. Everyone did borrow. But that era is over. Interest rates are higher now. And they might go higher still. And that changes everything. Because when borrowing costs go up, the value of everything goes down. Stocks, bonds, real estate, everything. And fourth, there's just this feeling in the market. This complacency. This assumption that things will always go up. That the government will always bail everyone out. That the Federal Reserve will always save the day. And maybe they will. Maybe. But maybe they won't. Or maybe they can't. And if you're betting your financial future on someone else saving you, you're in trouble. So, that's what I'm seeing. That's the environment we're in. Does this mean a crash is coming in 2026? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But it means risk is high. It means the margin for error is small. It means you need to be prepared. Now, let me tell you exactly what I'm doing. What I've been doing. And what you should do too. 7 specific actions. 7 things you need to do right now before 2026. The first thing, and this is the most important, build your cash reserves. Cash is king. I've said this before, I'll say it again. In uncertain times, in dangerous times, you want cash. Not because cash is a great investment. It's not. Cash loses value to inflation. I know that, but cash gives you options. Cash gives you flexibility. Cash gives you the ability to act when everyone else is frozen in fear. Right now, Berkshire Hathaway is sitting on over $150 billion in cash. $150 billion. People criticize me for this. They say, Warren, you're wasting money. Put it to work. But I'm not wasting it. I'm waiting. Waiting for the right opportunity. Waiting for prices to come down. Waiting for the panic. Because here's what happens in a downturn. Asset prices fall, stocks fall, real estate falls, businesses get desperate for capital. And if you have cash, you can buy at incredible prices. Prices you'll never see in good times. But if you don't have cash, if all your money is already invested, you can only watch. You can't participate. You miss the opportunity of a lifetime. So, how much cash should you have? That depends on your situation, your age, your income, your obligations. But I'd say at a minimum, you want 6 months of living expenses in cash. If you spend $5,000 a month, you need $30,000 in cash. Accessible cash, not tied up in stocks or real estate or retirement accounts. Cash you can get to immediately. And if you're more risk averse, if you're older, if your income is less stable, maybe you want 12 months. Maybe more. The point is, you need a cushion, a buffer, so that when things get bad, you're not forced to sell investments at the worst possible time just to pay your bills. Now, I know what you're thinking. But Warren, I'm losing money to inflation. Every day that cash sits there, it's worth less. And you're right. But you know what's worse than losing 2 or 3% to inflation? Losing 50% in a stock market crash because you were fully invested with no reserves. Or losing your house because you couldn't make the mortgage payment after you lost your job. Cash is insurance. It's protection. And right now, you need that protection more than you need maximum returns. So, build your cash reserves. Cut your spending if you have to. Sell some investments if necessary. But get that cash position built. Because when 2026 comes, you're going to be very glad you did. The second thing you need to do, and this is critical, reduce your debt. All of it, as much as you possibly can. Because debt is the enemy in a downturn. Debt is what destroys people. I've never been in debt. Never. I've never had a mortgage. Never had a car payment. Never carried a credit card balance. Why? Because debt makes you vulnerable. Debt takes away your options. Debt forces you to keep earning money just to make payments. And if something happens, if you lose your job, if your business fails, if your investments go down, you're in trouble. Serious trouble. So, here's what you do. Make a list of all your debts. Credit cards, car loans, student loans, mortgage, everything. And then, start paying them off. Aggressively. Start with the highest interest rate debts first. Those credit cards charging 15-20% interest. Pay those off immediately. I don't care if you have to sell things. Sell the boat. Sell the extra car. Sell your baseball card collection. Whatever it takes. Get rid of that high interest debt. Then move to the next highest rate. Car loans. Student loans. Work your way down the list. And as you pay off each debt, take that payment amount and apply it to the next debt. Snowball it. Accelerate it. Now, I know some people will say, but Warren, my mortgage is only 3% interest. Why would I pay that off when I can invest and make 8 or 10%? And mathematically, they're right. On paper, it makes sense to keep the cheap debt and invest instead. But we're not living on paper. We're living in the real world. And in the real world, having no debt gives you peace of mind. It gives you security. It gives you the ability to survive a crisis. Imagine losing your job with no debt. You can live on a fraction of your previous income. You have time to find the right opportunity. You're not desperate. Now imagine losing your job with a big mortgage, car payments, credit card debt. You're panicking. You're taking the first job you can find. You're stressed. You're one emergency away from disaster. So, pay off your debt. All of it, before 2026. Give yourself that security, that freedom. Because if things get bad, you're going to need it. The third thing you need to do is diversify your investments properly. And I don't mean own 100 different stocks. That's not diversification. That's just confusion. What I mean is, make sure you're not concentrated in one thing. One stock, one sector, one asset class. I see this all the time. People who work for a tech company and all their net worth is in tech stocks. Or people who own real estate and 90% of their wealth is tied up in property. Or people who inherited one stock from their parents and they've never sold it because, I don't know, loyalty or sentimentality or tax reasons. But here's the problem. If you're concentrated and that one thing goes bad, you're wiped out. I've seen it happen. Enron employees who had everything in Enron stock. Gone. Lehman Brothers employees. Gone. Tech workers in 2000 when the dot-com bubble burst. Gone. So, look at your portfolio right now. Today, what percentage is in your top holding? If it's more than 10%, you're too concentrated. Sell some. Diversify. Spread the risk. Now, how should you diversify? My recommendation for most people is simple. Index funds. A broad market index fund that owns hundreds or thousands of companies. The S&P 500. A total stock market fund. Something like that, because when you own the index, you own a piece of the entire economy. And while individual companies fail, the economy as a whole keeps growing over time. But don't just own stocks. Own some bonds too, especially if you're older or more conservative. Bonds don't have the upside of stocks, but they provide stability. Income. Safety. A good rule of thumb, your age in bonds. If you're 40, maybe 40% bonds. If you're 60, maybe 60% bonds. And own some international exposure too. Not everything should be US based. The US is great. I love America, but diversification means spreading risk globally. So, maybe 10-20% in international stocks. The point is, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't be the person who's all in on tech stocks or crypto or real estate or one individual company. Spread it out. Protect yourself. Because we don't know which sectors are going to get hit hardest in the next downturn. But if you're diversified, you'll survive regardless. The fourth thing, and this is something a lot of people overlook, lock in your income sources. What I mean is, make sure you have stable, predictable income. Multiple streams if possible. Because in a recession, incomes get cut, jobs get lost, bonuses disappear, commissions dry up, and if you're dependent on one single income source, you're vulnerable. So, think about this now. While times are still good, how can you create additional income streams? Maybe it's a side business. Maybe it's freelance work. Maybe it's rental income from a property you own. Maybe it's dividend income from stocks. Maybe it's interest from bonds or savings accounts. The specific source doesn't matter as much as the principle. You want multiple streams, so that if one goes away, you still have others. You're not completely dependent on one paycheck from one employer. And if you're employed, now is the time to make yourself indispensable. Update your skills. Take on important projects. Build relationships. Make yourself valuable. Because when layoffs come, and they will come in a downturn, companies keep the people they can't afford to lose. Be that person. Also, if you own a business, this is the time to strengthen it. Build your customer base. Diversify your revenue sources. Cut unnecessary expenses. Build up reserves. Because a recession will test your business. And the businesses that survive are the ones that prepared while times were good. The fifth thing you need to do, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, but stay invested. Don't panic and sell everything. Don't try to time the market. Because here's the thing. If you have cash reserves, if you've reduced your debt, if you're properly diversified, you can afford to stay invested. You can ride out the volatility. And historically, staying invested is always the right move in the long run. Always. Every single recession, every bear market, every crash, the market has recovered. Every time. It might take a year. It might take 3 years. But it recovers. And if you sell in panic, you lock in your losses. You miss the recovery. And you never make it back. I've lived through 14 recessions, remember? 14. And you know how many times I've sold all my stocks and gone to cash? 0. Never. Not once. Because I know that if I own good businesses, they'll survive. They'll keep making money. They'll keep paying dividends. And eventually, the stock price will reflect that. Now, I'm not saying don't adjust your portfolio. If you're overweighted in risky assets, yes, reduce that. If you're concentrated, yes, diversify. But don't abandon stocks entirely. Don't go to 100% cash and wait for the crash. Because you'll never know when to get back in. You'll wait too long. The market will recover without you. And you'll miss it. So, stay invested. But stay smart. Stay diversified. Stay disciplined. And trust the process. The sixth thing, and this is specific but important, review your insurance coverage. Health insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, homeowners insurance, auto insurance. All of it. Because in a crisis, insurance is what protects you from catastrophic loss. I've seen people lose everything because they didn't have adequate insurance. A medical emergency wipes out their savings. A disability leaves them unable to work with no income. A house fire destroys their home and they're underinsured. These are preventable disasters. So, sit down with your policies. Read them. Understand them. Are your coverage limits adequate? Are your deductibles too high? Are there gaps? Fix them now, while you can still get coverage, while you're still healthy, while you still have income to pay the premiums. Because if something happens in 2026 or beyond, you want to know you're protected. You want to know that a medical issue or an accident or a disaster isn't going to destroy everything you've built. And the seventh and final thing you need to do before 2026, and this might be the most important of all, prepare yourself mentally. Because the next downturn, whenever it comes, it's going to be scary. The news is going to be terrible. Your portfolio is going to go down. Maybe way down. Your neighbors are going to panic. Your friends are going to sell. Everyone is going to be talking about how bad things are. And you need to be prepared for that psychologically. You need to have the mental strength to stay calm. To stick to your plan. To not panic. Because the biggest mistakes in investing are emotional mistakes. Selling at the bottom. Buying at the top. Making decisions based on fear instead of logic. So, how do you prepare mentally? First, educate yourself. Understand how markets work. Understand that volatility is normal. Understand that downturns are temporary. Read about past recessions. Learn what happened, how long they lasted, how the markets recovered. Because knowledge reduces fear. When you know what to expect, it's less scary. Second, visualize it. Imagine your portfolio going down 30, 40, 50%. How would you feel? What would you do? Walk through it in your mind. So when it actually happens, it's not a shock. You've already been there mentally. You already know how you're going to respond. Third, write down your investment plan. Your strategy. Your rules. What percentage in stocks? What percentage in bonds? What percentage in cash? When you'll rebalance? When you'll buy more? When you'll sell? Write it all down now, while you're calm, while markets are stable. And then when the crisis comes, you just follow the plan. You don't have to think. You don't have to decide. You just execute what you already decided. And fourth, limit your media consumption. When the crisis hits, the news media is going to be in overdrive. 24/7 doom and gloom. Every headline is going to be about how bad things are. And if you're consuming that all day every day, it's going to mess with your head. It's going to make you scared. It's going to make you want to sell. So, decide now that when the downturn comes, you're going to check the news once a day. Maybe just the headlines. And then you're going to turn it off. You're going to focus on your plan, your strategy, your long-term goals. Because the news doesn't help you make better decisions. It just makes you more emotional, more reactive. That's mental preparation. And it's just as important as financial preparation. Maybe more important. Because I've seen people who were financially prepared, who had cash, who had good portfolios, but they panicked anyway. They sold at the bottom. They made emotional decisions, and they destroyed their own wealth. Don't be that person. Prepare mentally. Now, before the crisis. Now, let me bring all of this together. 7 things you need to do before 2026. Build cash reserves. Reduce debt. Diversify properly. Lock in income sources. Stay invested. Review insurance. Prepare mentally. If you do these 7 things, you're going to be fine. More than fine. Because while everyone else is panicking, while everyone else is unprepared, you'll be ready. You'll be positioned. You'll be able to take advantage of opportunities that others miss. And here's the thing. I'm not predicting doom and gloom. I'm not saying the world is ending. I'm not saying sell everything and hide in a bunker. What I'm saying is, be prepared. Be smart. Be proactive. Because the time to prepare for a storm is before the storm arrives. Not during it. You know, I've built my entire fortune on this principle. Buy when others are fearful. Sell when others are greedy. But to buy when others are fearful, you have to be prepared. You have to have cash. You have to have courage. You have to have a plan. And that's what these 7 steps give you. The preparation, the foundation, the ability to act when the opportunity comes. Because here's what's going to happen. Sometime in the next few years, maybe 2026, maybe sooner, maybe later, we're going to have a downturn. A correction, a recession, maybe even a crisis. And when it happens, most people are going to panic. They're going to sell their stocks. They're going to cut their spending. They're going to hide. They're going to wait for things to get better. But if you've prepared, if you've done these 7 things, you're going to do the opposite. You're going to be calm. You're going to stay invested. And you're going to be looking for opportunities. Looking for great businesses that are on sale. Looking for assets that are undervalued. Looking for ways to deploy your cash reserves at incredible prices. And 5 years later, 10 years later, you're going to look back and realize that was when you made your fortune. Not during the boom, during the bust. Because that's when the real money is made. When everyone else is scared and you're prepared. Let me tell you about 2008 again because I think it perfectly illustrates this principle. The financial crisis. The worst recession since the Great Depression. Banks were failing. The stock market was down 50%. People were losing their homes. Unemployment was skyrocketing. It was genuinely terrible. And everyone was scared. I mean everyone. Smart people. Experienced investors. They were all selling. Getting out. Going to cash. Hiding. But I had prepared. Berkshire had cash. Lots of it. And I had a list. A list of companies I wanted to own. Great businesses. But they were always too expensive. Until 2008. Suddenly, they were cheap. Really cheap. So, I bought Goldman Sachs, General Electric, Swiss Re, Harley Davidson. I wrote an op-ed for the New York Times. Be buying American, I said. And people thought I was crazy. They said I was catching a falling knife. They said it was going to get worse. Maybe it was going to get worse. I didn't know. But I knew the businesses were undervalued. I knew they'd survive. I knew that eventually, things would get better. And I was right. Those investments made Berkshire billions of dollars. Billions. Not because I was lucky. Because I was prepared. Because I had cash when others didn't. Because I had the courage to act when others were paralyzed by fear. And you can do the same thing. You really can. You don't need billions of dollars. You don't need to be Warren Buffett. You just need to prepare. You need to follow these 7 steps. You need to be ready. So, that's my urgent message to you today. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate. Don't assume everything is going to be fine. Because maybe it will be fine. Maybe there won't be a crisis in 2026. Maybe the economy keeps growing. Maybe the stock market keeps going up. But maybe not. And if you wait until the crisis to prepare, it's too late. The time to build cash reserves is now, while you have income. The time to pay off debt is now, while you can afford the payments. The time to diversify is now, while prices are still reasonable. The time to prepare mentally is now, while you're calm and rational. Because once the crisis hits, once the panic starts, you can't prepare anymore. You can only react, and most people react badly. They make emotional decisions. They sell at the bottom. They panic. They lose. But you don't have to be most people. You can be prepared. You can be ready. You can be the person who thrives in the chaos while others struggle. And 20 years from now, you'll look back at this moment. This decision. This choice to prepare. And you'll realize it was one of the most important things you ever did. Because it set you up for success. It protected your wealth. It gave you the foundation to build real, lasting financial security. That's what I want for you. That's why I'm sharing this message. Not to scare you, not to make you panic, but to wake you up, to motivate you, to push you to take action while you still can. So, my challenge to you is simple. Pick one of these 7 things. Just one. And do it this week. This week, not next month. This week. Maybe it's building your cash reserve. Move $500, $1,000, whatever you can, into a savings account. Start the process. Or maybe it's paying off debt. Make an extra payment on your credit card. Sell something you don't need and put that money toward your car loan. Or maybe it's diversifying your portfolio. Log into your brokerage account. Look at your holdings. If you're too concentrated, sell some and buy a broad index fund. Whatever it is, do one thing. Take one action. Because action creates momentum. And momentum creates change. And change is what you need. Don't let this video be just another piece of content you watched and forgot about. Let it be the catalyst. The turning point. The moment you decided to take control of your financial future and prepare for what's coming. Because 2026 is coming. Ready or not. The question is, will you be ready? Will you be prepared? Will you be positioned to survive and thrive? I hope so. I really do. Because the world needs more people who are financially secure. More people who aren't stressed about money. More people who have the freedom to live their lives on their own terms. And that can be you. If you prepare, if you act, if you do these 7 things before it's too late. Thank you for watching today. And please take this seriously. This isn't just theory. This isn't just advice. This is a warning. A friendly warning from someone who's been through this 14 times. Someone who knows what's coming. Someone who wants you to be okay. So, prepare, act, now. Now, before you go, I need you to do something. If this video resonated with you, if you understand the urgency, hit that subscribe button right now. Because over the next few weeks and months, I'm going to be releasing more content about how to prepare, how to position yourself, specific strategies, specific investments, specific actions you can take. And you don't want to miss that information. This could be some of the most valuable content you ever watch. Because it's not about getting rich quick. It's about protecting what you have and positioning yourself for what's coming. Also, and this is important, share this video. Send it to your friends, your family, your coworkers, anyone who needs to hear this message. Because most people aren't prepared. Most people don't see what's coming. And you can help them. You can give them the knowledge, the warning, the chance to prepare. Drop a comment below and tell me, which of these 7 actions are you going to take first? Are you going to build cash? Pay off debt? Diversify? I want to know. And I'll try to respond to as many comments as I can. And if you want more specific guidance on any of these topics, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll make a dedicated video on that topic. Because my goal here is to help you, to educate you, to prepare you. All right, that's it for today. In the next video, we're going to talk about the 5 things you absolutely must sell before you retire. This is critical information if you're anywhere close to retirement age. You don't want to miss it. Until then, stay disciplined, stay prepared, and remember, the time to prepare for rain is when the sun is shining. Right now, the sun is still shining, but the clouds are gathering. Don't wait until the storm hits. See you in the next one.